Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach, and I'm so excited that you're here to join me for this intuitive development journey. How is everybody doing? We are about halfway through May, maybe by the time this is coming out a little bit later through May. And I hope you are feeling the beauty of the May energy where everything's starting to just align, right? The closing to open, maybe the first half of the month, you were feeling some things fall away, maybe some, old opportunities or relationships falling away, things that were working, but then suddenly kind of slipped away. And maybe you're starting to see now at this half of the month how that is playing out and why that has played out for your highest good. And perhaps maybe new opportunities have come through or a different variation of the thing that fell away, but better. I'm definitely starting to see that appear in my own life this month. And I definitely saw how the things started to close and fall away at the beginning of the month and are now stepping into like the new version of that, the next level of a lot of things are kind of coming through this month. So I really hope that that's what you're experiencing too. Really a lot of newness in this month, which is really exciting given sort of the rocky first few months of the year that we had. So I'm happy that we're kind of starting to hit our groove and kind of get into a jive energy wise anyway for this year, which is really beautiful. So I'm so excited to bring to you a very different episode for you guys today. This episode that's coming through is an episode where I was actually being interviewed on another podcast. So I was a guest on the Unveil You podcast hosted by a beautiful woman named Audra Yankton, Audra. And Audra was a client of mine. She's also in the Intuition Activation program or in the community. And so we've gotten to know each other a little bit over the last few months and asked me to be a guest on her podcast. And her podcast is so beautiful, and I highly recommend that you go and have a listen. She definitely does some intuitive business coaching, and she's really an amazing person to work with. So definitely make sure to go and check out her podcast, the Unveil You Podcast. And you're going to get a little snippet of what her podcast is all about today because I'm releasing the episode where she interviewed me. And the reason I wanted to release this one is because she asks some really amazing questions about things that maybe we haven't really touched upon on this podcast yet. And so it's definitely given me some ideas for episodes to go deeper. So we're going to talk a little bit, we go really deep on some things about sort of the soul's journey and the soul's purpose and why certain souls come through at certain times. And we talk about sort of the spiritual awakening or the global awakening that's coming through. And we talk about the 3D and the 5D and just all of the things that you kind of hear in the spiritual realm or in the spiritual woo-woo world or that side of the internet. And so we touch upon it. And these are not things that I've yet really dived into so much on this podcast. So I'm excited to bring it to you here. We also talk about the fact that Audra is an earth angel. So you're getting to meet another earth angel that I've had the pleasure of channeling for and what that means for her in her life. So if you've identified with that episode where I talk about what it means to be an earth angel, you're definitely going to want to have a listen to this episode where you kind of see how that plays out in a very specific person's life. Yeah, so there's just so much juicy information and things that we discuss in this episode, and I'm so excited to share it with you. But before we dive in, I know that I left you on a cliffhanger last week with an intuitive development exercise where I left you with a toy that you were supposed to visualize, a children's toy. So I'm going to stop right here. If you did not go and listen to that intuitive development exercise, I'm about to give the answer to what it was. Definitely go back and listen to last week's episode where I walk you through an intuitive development exercise to see something or visualize something in your mind. It was a children's toy of some kind. I'm going to reveal what it was. So if you don't want to hear the answer, pause here, skip 30 seconds, and go back and listen to the episode. But otherwise, if you did listen to it and you do want to know the answer, it was in fact a child red fire truck. So it was a red fire engine or red fire truck. However, if you saw a red car of any kind, I would count that as a win either way. So some sort of vehicle that was red, I count as a win, but it was in fact a kid's or a children's fire truck or fire engine. It was like a little plastic fire truck. So hopefully that's what you saw. Or if you saw some sort of vehicle, some sort of car or toy car, count that as a win. And if you saw something that was red, count that as a win also. So I hope that's what you got. There's not going to be an intuitive development episode in this week's episode because it's not a solo episode, but in the next one that I do a solo, I will give another exercise. But guys, if you're craving more of these and you want to really dive deep into strengthening your intuitive abilities, we are diving so deep into all of these things in the intuition activation community. So come and join us in there, and then you'll get so much more opportunity to practice. And then you don't have to wait a week to get the answer. You'll get the answer right then and there. So definitely come and join. I know this week we did something really cool. I regressed everybody into their own past life through hypnosis. So everybody got to see their own past life. And then this week we're going to I'm teaching everybody how to then see somebody else's past life. So channeling a past life for somebody else. So guys, we dive into all of the really deep ways that or things that you can do and the powers that you can uncover when you tap into your intuition, because really the world is your oyster when you do that. There's so much that can be done once you learn how to tap into that brainwave, right? That your intuition, if you will. So definitely something to check out. Come and join us. You can cancel anytime, so just give it a try. And otherwise, I'm so excited to bring this week's episode to you. Please enjoy this episode of the Unveil You podcast, where I am a guest, and I'll catch you guys on the other side. Bye.
Hello, hello, my beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Unveil You podcast. And today we have a very, very special guest with us. She's very near and dear to my heart. And her name is Jessica Rachel Snyder. She goes professionally by Jessica Rachel. And she is, well, I'll let her introduce herself here in just a moment. But yes, she's here to talk to us about some really, really fun and interesting topics that I think you will all really, really enjoy. So Jessica, without further ado, please introduce yourself and the beautiful work that you do.
Well, first of all, thank you, Audra, so much for having me here. It is such a pleasure, and I love seeing when people are really taking action on their path and their purpose in this life, and even getting to just be like a little piece of that puzzle. I'm just so honored. So thank you so much for inviting me here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then to introduce myself, okay, I am a spiritual medium. Some people can akin that to a psychic medium. They're pretty much synonymous. Also an intuitive coach. So while I do channel spirit guides for other people, spirit guides and their loved ones, I also predominantly teach other people how to connect to their own intuition so that you don't require a spiritual medium to do the channeling for you. And that's really the thing that lights me up the most, is teaching you guys how to do it.
Yeah. And I can attest to that. I have purchased and done Jessica's. Actually tell me what the course is called.
Really it's called Meet Your Spirit Guides.
Yes, Meet Your Spirit Guides. And I was able to do it in 2 hours, and it kind of showed me what my intuitive strengths were. And intuition, as Jessica says, is a muscle, and you can strengthen it. And I've been working on that actively, and really it has helped me more than anything I have ever come across on the internet, that's for sure. So here's the proof. Is that it's a fantastic course. Yeah, I really loved it. Recommend it to anybody. So, well, with that, Jessica, I have some really fun questions for you today on just kind of the bigger zoom out of why are we here? Why are we here on this planet? And we'll get a little bit more specific as we go along into soul types and stuff like that, and the work that I do and how that ties back into all of this. But the first question I want to ask for you is, why do souls choose to come to Earth in the first place? And what is kind of going on the other side of what's the impetus for this?
Oh my gosh, that's no small question, Audra.
It's pretty loaded, but
so I want to start with the caveat that I do not claim to know all the secrets of the universe. The only information that I can give is based on what I have received from channeling for hundreds and hundreds of different people. And while I would say that there's no one specific purpose, because each of us have a very unique, path and divinely guided purpose in our lives, I will say that there is one overarching purpose that a soul will have for coming here. And ultimately, it is to achieve mastery. And what does it mean to achieve mastery? It is to remember who we are. And who is it that we really are? We are a piece of the master, a masterpiece. And there's actually this really beautiful book that I highly recommend everybody read. It's called Conversations with God. And that is reiterated so much more beautifully than anything that I can give lip service to. But there's really this beautiful concept of when a soul comes down here, we choose amnesia. We forget who we are. We forget what's going on, and we forget where we came from. We forget all of the lives we've had before this one. And we spend all of our life trying to get back to that place of complete knowing that you are a beautiful, powerful, masterful being, a piece of source, a piece of the creator. And we spend our whole lives we learn lessons and we interact with different people, and we have all these different experiences, all to come to the realization, the remembrance that we are a piece of source, that we are these divine beings. And some of us come to this, within one lifetime, and some people take many, many lifetimes to get there.
And you mentioned something that was actually going to be another question that I have, is forgetting who we are when we're born. Can you explain that a little bit more? Like when you say we forget who we are, and like explain that. And then also, what's the purpose of forgetting who we are when we're born? Like, why would we do something like that?
Yeah, well, if you think about it this way, the journey of a soul, right? The typical journey of a soul, and we're definitely going to talk about an atypical soul such as yours, but a typical soul will incarnate here on the planet, will have a life, right? We'll have a lifetime in a particular time period, and we'll have a whole lot of things happen to us, for us, depending on how you look at it. And then we pass away and we go up into a liminal space. Some people call it the astral plane or the causal plane. I'm confusing the two. I believe where we sit is I believe it's called the astral plane. Don't
I,
quote me on
I think that sounds
that.
right. Yeah.
I think it's the astral plane.
I think that
One
sounds
where
right.
spirit guides sit, and there's one where people sit. But I'm leaning towards it's called the astral plane, and that's where we would sit and we review our life, and we kind of go, what things did we learn? What things did we not learn? Right? What things did we achieve? What do we want to bring with us into the next life? And then we kind of choose our parents, choose our next situation, and gear ourselves up to get ready, and then dive back in to do it again, taking with us, with the intention of finishing up unfinished business from the previous life, right? And the thing is, this can happen hundreds of times, right? So imagine if you remembered every single event from every single lifetime you ever had. What if you had gone through a war in one life, were brutally murdered in another one, and, lost a sibling, there are traumas that we acquire. If you remembered all of those things, we would all be in the loony bin. Like, there's no way you could hold on to all of that and be
Completely.
sane.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right?
And
So,
thankfully, thank God for that.
right?
Yeah.
So we do have to choose amnesia for that. For one, on one side of it, to protect ourselves, right? And on the other side of it, that's part of the point. The whole point and purpose of your life is to go through the process of remembering, right? And there's joy in that, and there's light in that, and there's excitement in that, right? If we came down remembering right away everything that we are and who we are, then there's nothing to aspire to. There's nothing to work towards. Everybody says, there's that beautiful Miley Cyrus song, like "It's the Climb," but she's right, right? It's not getting there. Usually anybody can say when they've experienced kind of achieving a goal, it's almost like then right away you kind of feel like it's almost like you get there and it's kind of like, oh, it's not what I thought it would feel like. And it's like, on to the next thing. I want to move on to the next thing. It's anticlimactic. That's the word I was looking for. And right, and you kind of are like, okay, now what's my next goal? Because the process of moving towards that goal is the point, right? And so if the goal is remembering who I am, right? Which at the end of the day, we all know the answer. I know who I am. I'm a piece of master, but we forget. And in how many different nuances, different ways, deeper levels can I deeply and completely understand that?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful. That reminds me of a quote actually. It's funny. I was at a work thing where the hotel we stayed at, it was nice. It had like turn down service. It was like, whoa. The client paid for it, to be clear. Like, I did not. But it was funny. They put a little quote card on my pillow that it was a Louis L'Amour quote, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something basically like, the point is the path. It's not like the end destination. Like, the journey is the journey itself. Like, that's the whole point of it. Not this end goal, but the journey. Anyway, I still have that quote card because that just meant a lot to me, and it kind of came at a funny time in my life because that speaks to me a lot. I'm a very goal-oriented person. I'm all about action steps and getting to the end, and it's exactly that. It's like, once you achieve all of these things, sometimes things that I waited my entire life to do, then it's like, oh, what what's next? Like,
Right.
you enjoy it for a minute and then you're like, oh, I actually like this. Not that it disappointed me. It's just like when you don't have that thing that you're actively working towards sometimes, like it's a little like not depressing. What's the right word for that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for
Like
sure.
wanting for more. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
really
And there's
beautiful.
also something to be said about, I just want to add kind of one other point here is that yes, the point is to kind of be on this journey of remembering. And there's also something to be said about you being a soul that's here to bring light into this world, right? And so it's almost the purpose, it's almost the journey is like in what way do as I go through this process of remembering who I am, do I then bring this light that I can share with others and help others achieve that understanding as well? So it's a little bit of like a self inquiry, but also it's like, then how do I share that with other people as well and help them along their path? And it's a beautiful kind of dance there between the two.
It really is. Yeah, it's funny. It's like you know the next question I'm about to ask you before you even ask it. I love
I
this.
must be psychic, Audra.
Yeah, this Jessica is legit, guys. But seriously. Well, so that was the next thing I was going to ask then was you've heard of this great awakening that the planet is going through right now. And I believe we're living in a time where more awakened souls are being called to rise to that partake in this great awakening. Not it, I understand this is like another one of those really big questions. We could probably do an entire podcast on just the great awakening itself, but I'm just curious like where you sit and in the work you do, what about living in this time is so special, and what like with the great awakening, and what are some different things you think the world is going through that it's never seen before in that way?
Yeah. Oh, it's such an interesting question. And I do have to admit that I haven't put too much thought into this. So I'm going to go on the fly here as I try to answer you because
Yeah.
I think it's so hard to see something that's so like it's a longer story, right? Like what a time period is the Great Awakening, right? Could we say that it started 100 years ago, or can we say that it's starting only just now and we're right at the beginning of it, in which case we can barely only see what it's going to lead to?
Yeah.
And so, I guess part of the question is like, what kind of kicks off this great awakening and what does that look like? But for me, it's really, I think when we say like an awakening too, right? It's the same thing that we were just speaking about, right? More and more people are waking up to the fact that there has got to be more than life than just survival, right? Right.
Yep.
It's like if you think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? A lot more people have a lot of their needs being met. And so then it's sort of like, what's the purpose of it all? Right. And
Yep.
what's the meaning behind it all? And I think that, yes, we are definitely seeing more people who are open to things that were definitely considered much more on the fringe than they are now, right? Things that are considered very woo-woo, very spiritual have become much more commonplace. And I think that we've only just touched the surface of that even then. And I would argue that the stuff that you and I are talking about today, and like even what I do is still considered really out there,
Oh yeah.
right?
I know for a fact when I like share this with like colleagues and stuff like that, there's definitely going to be a fair share of people that are like, what are they talking about? Like,
Right,
what does
right,
all this mean, right? And that's part of why I'm starting this podcast is because I like can't even believe I went my entire life not realizing that I'm like a whole soul on the other side of this planet. And like once you kind of start to unwrap the layers of that and peel back the layers, I should say, it's like whoa, like what else don't I know? Which is pretty much everything. I
yeah,
realize I know less all the time when I just realize the vast amount of things that are working on the other side for us, right? So
yeah.
that's a big reason why I'm doing the work that I do. I want people to remember who they are, and I want them to remember that they are a divine piece of the creator, of the masterpiece, as you say, right? And so what is the point of that? Say if we have more and more people waking up all the time, what is the ultimate goal of that?
Yeah, and I really think that it's sort of this feeling of elevating the planet. And if we really kind of have this understanding that, first of all, and I mean, I guess I'm going in two different directions with my thoughts here. One thought is a little bit more of the woo-woo side of things, which is that if we have the understanding that there are other realms and other dimensions and other societies and like, alien realms, if you will call them, or other
Yeah.
beings
Oh, I
out
love
there,
it.
we would be considered probably one of the most primitive societies out there, right? In comparison to the
Completely.
other ones. And so we're waking up a little bit more to what it means to be a light being. And so this is when people talk about the awakening, they talk about moving from the 3 dimension to the 4D to the 5D. What does that mean? Right? That means that we are moving from this place of us living in a physical world to really, really understanding how much everything is really just boiled down to energy, right? And if that's true, then what am I capable of? And how can I manipulate that energy and share that energy and live more on a different frequency of love and be more connected, deeply connected to the other souls around me? And, do crazy things like manifest, heal my body miraculously, right? Like do all of these things and live in what you would probably call utopia, right?
Yeah.
Or peace in some way, because we realize that it's not, everything is not what you're seeing in front of you, right? So people are stepping out of this idea, and the woo-woo term of that would be like stepping out of the matrix, right? The
Yes.
3D,
Yes.
the understanding that like everything that's been placed in front of us, the goals that they put, the societal standards that are put in front of us, the milestones that are put in front of us, they're all made up, right? They're not necessary. We don't need to do any of those things, right? We were really ideally put onto this planet to just be here. We are human beings, not human doings, right? And
Yes.
so there's really sort of this feeling of like the more we move into this feeling of like we are here to just live in this frequency of love and of light, and to remember that we are these beautiful pieces of the masterpiece. And like if I know truly, like to the deepest core of my essence, that I am a piece of source, I don't need to chase anything because I am tapped into the universal abundance of everything, right?
Yes.
And the more I lean into that and the more I'm fully aware of that, I don't need to do anything, right? I get to just live in that energy. And I think that's what, when we're heading towards that as a collective, we're going to see, a lot of these structures are going to fall apart because they really depend on our inability, or they really do, they depend on our lack of self-worth, essentially.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely. And it's really funny that made me think about like when I was first starting my spiritual awakening, the very first thing that kind of snapped me out of it, I would say, from like going from this very like pre-cut life, I'm like doing the societal standards and doing the things that are expected of me, was I was listening to this podcast on spirituality. It said something like, have you ever been told that there's a right way to pack a dishwasher? And in my head, I'm like, of course, time's up. Like, I got yelled about that. I yelled at about that when I was a kid. Like, the tines have to go up on the forks. And then they kind of like intentionally paused. And then I had this moment where I was like, wait a minute, there is no right way to pack a dishwasher, is there? It's like whatever people want to tell you and like make you believe and do is like if you just go along with that and don't question it, all of a sudden you don't know who you are anymore. And it started with this one dumb dishwasher question, but it made me question everything. I was like, hold on. So you're telling me that you can do whatever you want, whenever you want to, and the more soul aligned it is, the easier it is that it will happen for you, basically. So anyway, maybe that's the one cut. I'm glad I actually inserted that here because I want my listeners to maybe ponder the same dishwasher question at some point of like,
It's so funny, but it's actually such a great question. It really is. I know it seems silly and trivial, but it's like
yes.
I've always been told that there's one way to do something. And it's like, what if you could do it any way you wanted? And what
Oh
if
yeah.
you got to create your whole destiny? And what if you had to take radical responsibility for your life, and that anything that is showing up in your life is because you put it there? I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow,
Yeah.
right?
It was like seriously the catalyst, like I said, for my like entire spiritual awakening was like that one question and sitting there. There's so much more beyond just like packing the dishwasher. It made me start to think about how many things am I doing in my life this one specific way just because someone told me that's the way it has to be done. And like at the end of the day, I'm like, the dishwasher wasn't given to us by God. It doesn't grow on a tree. It's like somebody just invented this dishwasher. Maybe there's a better way to wash dishes that we haven't even invented yet. So it was kind of just this spiral of like, whoa, we actually, yeah, again, it's so silly, but it was a really funny realization that I had. So
Yeah, and I don't doubt that that piece of information came to you at the exact moment that you needed to hear it, right? And there's
yeah,
that piece of like the divine conspiring for you, right? Like the world is always conspiring to help you along that path of growth. And
Absolutely.
around everywhere you look around you, there's going to be signs and symbols and messages that come through at just the right moment so that you can hear it just in the right way to kind of step a little bit further into that path of awareness. So
Yeah, that's a really good point. It was kind of in the middle too. Funny enough, yeah, dishwashers were very relevant to me at that time as I had a newborn and I was pretty much constantly listening to podcasts and bottle dishes that we all know and love. I'm constantly washing dishes and then that question was posed to me and yeah, so you're absolutely right. Like you don't start your awakening until it's the time. And if you're sitting here thinking like, well, why didn't I awaken sooner? It's because you just weren't meant to, right? Like you just probably weren't meant to until a certain time. And that's what
well,
I choose to believe.
you can't be hard on yourself. You didn't know what you didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So anyway,
And there
well,
is a level of conditioning, right? There's a level of conditioning that you have to wake up from and move away from. And some people can take a whole lifetime and never move out of that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And luckily, thankfully, we all have a beautiful soul that lives within us that is relentless and will always kind of give you these little hints and whispers of get out, get out, get out.
yeah,
The question is,
exactly.
are you willing, ready, and brave enough to listen to it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that bravery is a large part of it too, is like sometimes we're just not confident yet or don't know how to be confident yet enough in ourselves to be like, okay, say I know all this stuff exists on the other side. Like, am I even ready to like confront that basically? You know, you have to be in a place where you're ready to kind of accept that that's the way it is and your life kind of consequently changes completely because of it more often than not. I'm not sure any of us are accidentally ever just unintentionally living in soul alignment. I think it takes a lot of intuition and intention and just listening to yourself. And sometimes that goes against the grain of what society wants for us. So not all of
Often,
us.
more often than not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is a big part of the work I do and my backstory is I come from this like very small part of the world, this tiny town in Nebraska where everybody knew each other and like you're just like on this pedestal of judgment all the time. And I never like if you would have told me 10 years ago even like, hey, you're not going to care about external validation or judgment ever again. Like in 10 years, I'd be like, you're lying because that's all I know. That's
Right.
so yeah, it's kind of one of those where I'm finally like, yeah, I'm the one paying my own bills and I'm the one doing my own life. So why would I care what anybody else thinks about me? So very simple, but huge, huge difference for me.
Simple, but not always easy, right?
Yeah, exactly. That is the thing about the universe. Things are simple, but very seldom are they easy. But that's the beauty of it. So, well, something else I wanted to ask you before I move on to a fun topic, which is past lives that I love that you specialize in, is that there's this concept of like when you're a soul on the other side and you're kind of choosing your new life, you choose your family, right? You choose your parents, you choose the family you're going to be born into. And how does that all work? And like, why would somebody like, there's beautiful lives that you can choose to be a part of. Like, you can choose to be born into a very stable family, a very loving family. And then there's like conversely this other side of it where not everybody has a good upbringing and they have like really traumatizing experiences in the family that they are living in. And if you bring that up to them of the fact that like, well, you everybody chooses their like family and like what their life is going to be like, they would tell you, why would I choose that? Right? Like, why would I choose to be traumatized by my own family? So anyway, I'm just really interested in if you would give your take on like how do we go about choosing the families that we end up picking? And like if you have a bad experience, like why might you have picked something like that?
Yeah, it's such a beautiful question. And I'm laughing that you're saying I specialize in past lives. I was like, do I? I've never self-proclaimed that, but I guess we do talk
You
about
know,
past lives a lot.
I
But
feel like you're the only person that I've come across, and that's not like you're the only person out there, but the only one that I've come across anyway that's like really confident and comfortable talking about it, right? So
oh,
I just love your take on it. Yeah,
it's
yeah. So
beautiful. I mean, it does come up a lot when I channel for people, right? And it
yes.
comes up frequently. So I appreciate that. Yeah. So it's such an interesting question. And I want to give like a little metaphor to help you, which is if you think about like, let's say, and this is not true, but let's say there was a finite number of lives you could come down to earth for. Like, let's say it's like you only had 10 existences that you could have, and you had to learn X amount of lessons in order to go to the next realm, which by the way, I fully believe that you can then switch to you like after we finish as people, we finish that reincarnation cycle, we then typically the typical trajectory, which again, not your soul's case, but most souls' cases, is to then do the next thing, which would be a spirit guide, right? And then they have a whole bunch of things they have to do, and then they can then move on to the next realm, right? So there are other levels and layers if you think of it like a video game, right?
Yeah.
You have to pass the level to move on to the next life. And the if you know that you're coming to the end of those opportunities to come down to earth and learn those lessons, and you have been put in beautiful scenarios before, but you didn't learn the lesson, or you just didn't quite, it didn't click, then you're going to choose the pressure cooker, the thing that's going to push you so hard that you have no choice but to wake up and do something about it and change your circumstances and overcome your circumstances to reach, again, the same answer of the same thing we're all trying to achieve, which is mastery, this awakening, this realization of who we really are. Sometimes we need to be pushed. If everything is good, if everything feels easy and good, you have nothing to strive for, you have no problems to solve. Why would you grow? Right? And so you can only grow when you are put in a scenario where you have to overcome something. And so typically older souls, right? Souls who know that listen, I've been doing this for 50 lifetimes and my soul just hasn't figured it out. We're going to have to find some other way that I'm going to have no choice but to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And so often the older souls, the ones who have been here many, many times, are the ones who are going to find themselves in much more challenging beginnings. So that it's going to push them to get to a place where they have to overcome their circumstances. And then they often want to then, achieve some level of awakening for sure, some level of awareness. And then they kind of are tasked with the innate desire to share what they've learned and in their early life with other people, so they too can then help other souls elevate and wake up as well. And so the best example again, and I see this a lot, and I've seen it with my own clients, but I've also just through listening to a bunch of spiritual podcasts myself. The oldest souls, some of the oldest souls, ones that are kind of near the end of their lifetimes of their reincarnation cycle, will choose drug addiction as their beginning.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And it's because when you think about it, what are you really seeking when somebody is seeking a drug addiction? When they're seeking a high, they're trying to fill a God-shaped hole, right, with a shortcut, right?
Yeah.
There's something that their soul is craving, yearning, missing, and they fill it with something that can give them that high, right? And when they overcome that drug addiction, it's usually a very spiritual path that helps them and allows them to overcome that, right? If you even think about Alcoholics Anonymous, for example, it's a very spiritual process, right? And so, right, they're choosing humble beginnings or very difficult beginnings that potentially would even lead them into a drug addiction in the first place, right? Trying to hide from a trauma or something. But this is the pressure cooker and the exact ingredients that was needed to then kind of have a moment, probably a lying on the floor, puking their guts out, oh my God, I need to make a different choice scenario, where they are fully at the rock bottom that they need to claw their way out. And that process of clawing their way out becomes the catalyst for them not only awakening themselves, but then waking up everybody in their area, like everybody around them.
Yes, that is, I love like everything you're bringing up. And it just made me think of like this beautiful thing that I had a mentor tell me one time, where I was sitting there and just really complaining about something I was going through. Like, why is this happening to me? Why me? I did all the right stuff, whatever. And what she said was that something that really like made me shift the way that I just see hardship, which was, how about you ask, like, how is this happening for you and not to you? Because it ties in again to this grand scenario of like, we're here to learn lessons, right? Like, if something is challenging that you're going through, it's not happening to you just for fun. It's like, now it's completely shifted my mindset of like, okay, I'm obviously not going through this for no reason. Like, what are the lessons in this? And how can I learn to be actually, in an ironic way, like grateful that this is happening to me, right? Or for me. So, yeah.
100%. Whenever I hit a rock bottom moment in my life, and they happen more often than I'd like to admit, but they do. And I've gotten to a place where I've definitely hit some especially during my Saturn return, like right around 29, 30, like some really, really horrific things happened. And like I was excited. Right? I remember thinking like I was like so like oh in shock, like I can't believe this just happened to us. And I'm like, that means something huge is around the corner, right? Like my spiritual growth is going to be like 10x because of this. And I just can't wait to see how me getting through this is going to get me to such a different level and such another side. And like, of course, prior to that, I would have been like, why me? Like, why
Yeah.
is this happening to me? But instead, anytime I hit any sort of rock bottom moment and or even little rock bottom moments, I'm like, oh, there's something really juicy and delicious in this for me. I just have to figure out what it is.
Oh yes. Oh my God. I love that too. Because I think this year's been kind of off with a bang in not such great ways for a lot of people. So yeah, I think I just want, yeah, that to be a reminder to the audience anyway, of just like, again, like not to be excited for the hardships. Like that's kind of a bizarre concept, but like, you know, the concept of just like, again, being grateful for the rock bottom sometimes, of just like opening your eyes and like showing you that there is beauty beyond this, and things are about to, like you said, change in a really big way, in a really good way for you on the other side. And I think even if I reflect and think of anything bad or rock bottom that's happened to me before, the thing that happened almost immediately after was something really, really cool and life changing in a good way. So
Absolutely. I mean, I will always say I am so grateful that I got into that car accident and ski accident all those years ago. I never would have quit teaching and become a spiritual medium and doing this beautiful work that I am now if I hadn't gotten so injured. Right?
I mean, yeah, I it's something about a car accident, and that's something I'll probably touch on in another episode. But yeah, there was a time where I got in a really, really bad car accident that I definitely shouldn't have survived. I actually got an award from the state for surviving the accident, which is a really funny concept. Yeah, the state of Nebraska gave me an award called the Seatbelt Survivor Award, because they're like, yeah, our experts evaluated this, and you definitely were not supposed to live.
Well, that's
And
how we know you're touched by angels, right?
yeah, I know. Well, the crazier thing was I had this prayer clip on my visor that had been given to me, I think, at high school graduation. I was still in college at this time. And it was Saint Michael, or Archangel Michael, whichever way you want to look at it. And it's, he's the protector. He keeps you safe. And that was like something that my visor was like lost in a field somewhere. But when we went back to the wreckage to kind of recover my stuff, that prayer clip was sitting on the driver's seat, like the first thing that I saw or my dad actually took a picture of it, because he didn't even know like that was so meaningful to me, but he took a picture of it. He's like, I couldn't even believe it. Like, of all things, that they survived this accident. Here's this clip of like Saint Michael just sitting up looking at me. And in the middle of like, I'll send you a picture sometime. It was crazy. Like the car was absolutely obliterated, but I was completely unscathed. Like nothing bad had happened to me. So, which is
All
maybe,
body chills.
yeah,
That's so cool.
it was really crazy. But that was kind of at a point in time where I was like going through a lot of depression in a way that I hadn't experienced before. And it kind of gave me a boost of just like, obviously, if I was supposed to not be here still, I would have been gone. Right. So that was kind of a divine motivation in a way of like, hey, you're not done yet. Like you've got things to do, and let's get out of this funk and like get your
Your death
stuff together.
experience will do that to you.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, I think that's a really good segue into like the last thing I wanted to talk about with you, which is this concept of earth angels, which is the beautiful topic that brought me to you in the first place as I was browsing my podcast on Spotify. And I had this, Are You an Earth Angel? Or I can't remember exactly what you had titled it, but it was this whole beautiful breakdown on what an earth angel is. And something in my soul was like, you should listen to that. And I was like, okay, I don't know why, but I'm going to listen to this random podcast episode from a podcast I've never even heard of or seen before. And it was something that just absolutely struck a chord with me and was like, this is so like, I don't know how this feels so familiar, but it just does. So anyway, I want to talk about that. So what is an earth angel? And obviously you did a whole podcast episode on it, so there's a lot of things you can talk about here, but for sake of time, just in a more summarized way, how would you define an earth angel in like spiritual terms?
Yeah. So an earth angel is essentially if we have to look at it in comparison to a typical soul. So a typical soul is what we would call an earthly soul, and that is a soul that, like myself, right, will come down and we'll have a lifetime here on the planet. We'll learn some lessons, maybe not, right? And then we'll die, we'll go up, we'll have kind of like a little purgatory period where we kind of reflect. I shouldn't say purgatory, a reflection period.
The Catholic version of me gets that, yes.
Okay. Right? A reflection period, maybe a repentance period, whatever, right?
Yeah.
We make some decisions about what our next life is going to be, and we come back down and we repeat that cycle over and over and over again here on Earth on the planet. And we'll do that until we kind of like, have learned, achieve some level of mastery, some level of awareness. And then and only then will we then jump to potentially another realm, such as being a spirit guide, right? Or being an angel or something like that. There are some souls that we would call earth angels there are two types of earth angels, but who will jump around a little bit more. So there's two types of earth angels, and you'll have to forgive me. I don't remember which type you are,
I'll
but
tell you after you tell me the two types.
okay. So the first one is it would have been someone who finished all of their incarnations. So they were an earthly soul.
That's the one I am.
That's the one you are. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So they would have finished all of those incarnations and they would have gone up to the next level and then the next level, right? So maybe they spent some time as a spirit guide, then they spent some time as an angel, right? They kind of achieved angelic realm status, right? And for some reason, they're up there and they're watching everything that's going down on Earth and going, oh my God, I got to go down there. I got to get some light. I got to bring some light into this world in a different way that only an angel can bring that through. And I need to be able to speak to people. I need to be able to work with people. I need to be able to do things where my energy, my light can shine in a really palpable way. I can only do that if I'm a person. So I have to go back down, right? So your most recent incarnation would have been in the angelic realm rather than here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's level one, or one type of earth angel. The other type of earth angel is that there are some angels who were always and have always been angels, right?
That's the kind of angel my daughter is, actually. You told me. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I do remember that. And these ones are like they only ever existed in the angelic realm and are choosing to come down here on the planet to experience what that feels like for the first time. So they've never ever been here before, right? They're like these brand new baby angel souls, but they come down for one specific lifetime, again, with ultimately the goal of spreading their healing, angelic, beautiful aura and light, and then they go back up. Right. So they don't stay here. They just like, I'm coming down for this one life. I'm going to share my love and light. I'm going to help the planet elevate in some way. And then away I go. And often you will see that earth angels will come through other earth angels. So usually they'll typically have a parent who is an earth angel of some kind, or an older soul, so that they would be understood and help them along their path. Yeah.
So, okay, I have actually like two follow-up questions to that. But the first one is,
Okay.
So I did just say that, yes, my daughter, you kind of like did a little tiny reading on her when you and I had done a reading together. She was in the room and you were able to see that, yes, she is in fact an earth angel. I just always like kind of like so you've done two readings with me now, but so this was in the very first one. And I just remember when she was a baby, like a brand new baby, like there's just something so pristine and perfect and beautiful about her hands. Like the way she held them, even in ultrasound scans, like she just held them so beautifully and like just absolutely like just, I don't know, godly. I don't know how else to describe it. And just the way she like just touches people is just such a, I don't know, like a cherub in a painting. And so it was funny, like I didn't share any of that with you, but then you went and got into my daughter's aura and energy, and you're like, oh yes, she's an earth angel. And I'm curious if earth angels, especially in my daughter's case, where they've only ever been an angel before on the other side, do you find that these souls tend to be like more awakened early on in life, or do they just like know things that they shouldn't know? And I have some reasons for that, but basically it's like I've noticed my daughter, like if my husband's having like some pretty severe shoulder pain or back pain or something like that, he won't say anything about it, but she'll come up to him and put her hands on his back and be like, dad, that hurt, and like almost like she's trying to heal him. And I'm just like looking at my almost 2-year-old thinking, how in the world is she that in tune? How does she know these things? So I guess that's why I'm asking the question of like, are these souls more awakened when they come to the planet? Like they don't have to go through earth amnesia as much.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's two things that you actually pointed out there, and I don't think you realize that. One of the things is that they come down and they often are called to energy healing, right? They're here to offer healing through their hands. And so the fact that you're saying that you saw her hands, they felt very divine. They know there's something within them that they have this knowing, like I'm here to bring healing energy. And while their presence alone offers healing energy without them doing anything, definitely through sharing it through their hands, they do know that innately, and they will put their hands on people quite often to do that. My own son also being an earth angel, I noticed that with him as well.
I didn't know your son was an earth angel. That's amazing.
Yeah, but he's an earth angel more similar to yourself. He's been here before for
Oh,
sure.
okay. He's seen
Um,
some things.
yeah. But they also are incredibly intuitive because they're connected. And so when you think about a typical soul, they're being guided by spirit guides, but an earth angel is being guided by the beings of the realm they hailed from. So they have angels that they're connecting to. So that already is a more divine, higher, clearer portal that they're connected to. So 100%, they're more awakened. And the question is like, is the conditioning in the family that they find themselves in awakened enough to not condition that out of them, right?
Yeah.
Typically, though, they will choose a family, as I said, that already has a more awakened or older soul family to kind of help propel their purpose a little bit more forward. So it's not a surprise that your daughter would then come through you, an earth angel, because then you could kind of help that instead of snuff it out, so to speak.
Yes. Oh, that makes so much sense. And yeah, that rings true for me completely with her. So, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Well, I know we're like at time. I have two more questions for you before I let you go today on this beautiful conversation.
Go
First
for it.
thing is with the work I do, empowerment coaching and trying to help people like unveil who they are, right, on this soul level so that they can like live these more authentic lives. Me being an earth angel, how does that kind of uniquely poise me to help my following and people that want to be coached by me even more than if I wasn't?
Well, it starts with number one, that you're incredibly intuitive, right? And so you'll be much more attuned to your intuition and have with a lot less effort than the average person to connect to your intuition. And it's going to come through that much easier for you especially when you're connecting with someone else. The beautiful thing about Earth Angels, and I'm always so jealous of you guys, is that
You'll be one
they're
someday, probably.
hopefully, maybe in my next life, right?
Yeah. This will be your last one. You'll come back an earth angel.
Yeah, there we go. Maybe I'm just the old soul right at the end there.
Exactly.
But the thing with you guys is that you, like, even if you did nothing in your life, right? Like, it's just any person who gets to interact with you is going to be healed by specifically just by being in your presence. So your presence alone has a ripple effect and has a healing aspect. It creates a clarity within somebody else that they wouldn't get without having a conversation with you or without sitting in your presence. And whether they're conscious of it or not doesn't matter. The time spent in your energy has a positive effect on them finding their true divine path and purpose in life and healing them in some way. And so even if like someone just sat in a room with you, Audra, they're going to be healed and have some moment of divine inspiration anyway. The fact that they're getting to work with you and talk to you, I mean, that's just going to propel them so much faster into the future, into their most aligned version of themselves and the healed version of themselves, because they're getting to work and receive the energy that, by the way, you're channeling all the time, right? You have this divine like portal of connection to the angelic realm. And anytime that you're sharing information, guidance, advice with somebody, it's coming from that realm. And so, working with Audra literally means getting divine guidance from angels. I mean, guys, if there's anything to propel you into your future, it's working with an earth angel.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful, and I love that so much. That's exciting. I feel like I've always kind of been the friend that people when shit hits the fan, for lack of a better term, they're coming to me like, what do I do here? And even if they don't realize they're doing that or not, that just kind of seems to be the theme of my life. So that's really beautiful, and I appreciate that. Well, I guess the last thing then is like, how would any of my beautiful listeners know if they're an earth angel or not on this planet, if they're maybe not awakened to that or have had a beautiful reading from you or other people?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I will say that often you'll hear about one and kind of feel like, this resonates, this deeply
Um,
resonates with me.
that's how it happened for me, I guess. You just confirmed it, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Right? Because I know, like, as much as I've interacted with earth angels, every time I hear about them, I'm always like, no, it's not me. I'm not. Like I wish, but I'm not. So there is a deep inner knowing, right? That you will come back to that if you hear about it. But there are some other kind of things that will maybe cue you in or clue you in, which is that there is a feeling of, especially if you're the kind of earth angel like your daughter is, where you've never been here before, there's definitely a feeling of fish out of water, right? There's this feeling of like this body that I'm in, this is dense, right? Like there is so much, like I have to take care of this thing. I have to feed it and I have to sleep and I have to like put clothing on it. All of the mundane rituals that are, required to maintain a human body are going to feel so frustrating to you and feel so mundane and unnecessary that you would possibly have to be forced to do those things. Otherwise, you would forget. So there's that. You're
Like my
also
daughter running around naked after
right
bath time.
all the time.
Yeah.
I cannot get clothes on my son. Like he will not, doesn't matter, dead of winter, like clothes, he's just not
That
into.
tracks. Yeah. She hates
Yeah.
scratchiness. It bothers her so much. Yeah.
And that's the other piece is that you'll be particularly sensitive as well. And so you will, any extra sensory input, you'll write tags on your shirts. You need to have certain textures on your body. Everything's going to feel like almost like just magnetized so much more powerful than the average person. So like noises can be too loud and sensations are too strong and like all of those things. You're definitely a very big empath. You feel everybody's emotions to the nth degree, right? Very, very, very sensitive soul because you were an energy being first and now you're in this physical body. Like that's going to be really hard. The other thing that is really going to kind of clue you in is feelings of frustration. This is a big one for you guys. You lived in a realm where you thought something and it manifested. Okay. It was energy, right? You wanted to make something happen and like you thought it, oh, there it is, right? You come to this planet and it's like, I think it, I want it, and now I have to work towards it. And there's this like intense delay between the thing I want and achieving that thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And the frustration that comes with that is just palpable.
I feel that so hard. I want everything right now.
You want it right now, and it's all like even to the point where like my son is literally it's his biggest complaint in life. It's taking too long. He says that to me all day, every day. It's just taking too long, mama. Right? Like
Yes.
no hold for patience.
I hear that now. Our daughter is so impatient. I've never met a being as impatient as her. So yes, that rings true for both me and my own life and with my daughter now. I see it come through big time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's a beautiful thing because then you also propel and do your divine work here that much faster because you feel like why wait, right?
Yeah. It's always about the next thing and the next thing and doing that. So, oh my gosh. I think another one I heard you say one time was that just how clumsy people can be when they're earth angels, which that actually really resounded with me. I don't know, maybe you're like, I don't know if I said that, but I'm the person that's like covered in bruises because I'm just like bumping into stuff everywhere. Like almost like I have my sea legs, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, you're not used to being in a physical body. It's been a while since you've been in one. And so that experience can feel very clunky and clumsy for sure. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, Jessica, this has been seriously such a beautiful, beautiful conversation. I learned a lot. I know our listeners definitely will be learning a lot from this too. And I hope it just kind of awakens something in their brain, if nothing else, of like, some of this feels like familiar to me. You know what I mean? So maybe who knows how many people we could impact by just having them listen to this conversation. And it's just a rabbit hole from here. You know what I mean? So
Well, thank you so much, Audra. This was really such a pleasure and to be continued. It was so fun. I could talk to you for another hour. So
I feel the same way. And the 2 readings I've had with you, I'm like, oh, how did 90 minutes go by? Seriously, anybody that has been debating a spiritual reading, Jessica is so beautiful. She can, like, the way she's able to connect with your guides is such a pure, beautiful love energy, and that's why I keep having her in my life. I think I've just never met anybody quite like her, and she just has this beautiful positive tone to all the readings she does. So I just can't sing your praises enough. I tell everybody about you. So
you're so sweet. You're making me blush, but thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, Jessica. Well, thank you so much. And I can't wait for our next conversation.